You know, we started this hour talking about the role that that tech and basically this idea of stay-at-home stocks have played in the recent rally of the NASDAQ, for example. I would add Stamps.com to the list, given the fact that when you did report earnings a couple days ago, you did see a big positive impact, whether it was new customer acquisitions or an increase in package volumes. Have you seen that continue to carry out into the current quarter? And as states begin to reopen, how sustainable is it?
Yeah, so we in the month of April, we've definitely seen it continue. In fact, we've seen it accelerate. So April was up. Our customer acquisition was up 300% year over year in the month of April. And then our package volume was up over 50% year over year. So it's been certainly we've been a beneficiary of the move to online. And I think we see it, it's potentially, we don't think it's a one-time glitch. I think there's going to be a general behavior change in terms of people looking at a new way of purchasing things online. I think part of it is, the familiarity with our service as well as just the aspect of buying
Carl.
online.
I got this one.
Sorry.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that we see it as both, I think, an initial thing. But I think, once people try new ways of doing postage, of doing shipping, I think that there's certainly a longer term implication of adoption that once you try it, you continue down that path.
Yeah, and you offer mailing and shipping software across the world. A vast majority of your revenue is driven by e-commerce. The U.S. Postal Service is one of your key partners in this process as well. Obviously, that quasi-governmental agency is very much in focus right now, too, given the fact that it's warned that it could run out of money by the fall. There is this brewing fight in D.C. over how to help the agency. What is your expectation? How are you planning in the event that there are going to be major changes at the Postal Service?
Well, yeah, certainly they have a lot of challenges. And I know, like the rest of the public, we're concerned about their longer term. They've been losing money for some time, as people know. I mean, it's really, there's a difference between cash flow and GAAP earnings, as everyone knows. So the way they recognize their earnings is on a GAAP basis, and the payments that they haven't made are, of course, not part of the cash. So they've actually been building cash over the last 5 years. So they do have about $10 billion on their balance sheet. I think it should sustain them for a while, but certainly there's been a drop in advertising mail. There's been a drop in other types of first-class mail. And that's really the majority of their revenue. So I think they do face a lot of challenges. They face a lot of challenges with their workers on the front lines. They've certainly had a lot of coronavirus cases as well as some deaths, unfortunately. So they've got a lot of challenges, but I think we're comfortable. We feel like they're such an important part of the economy, an important part of the U.S. Fabric that we don't see Congress, not funding them ultimately.
Ken, and that's my main question, I think, is what should the Postal Service be? Is it an essential service and sort of an essential piece of the U.S. economy that needs to be subsidized and doesn't necessarily have to be profitable all the time? Or is it kind of a quasi-governmental enterprise that should be profitable? Because if it's kind of like rural broadband, then I think people should expect that, hey, it needs to be subsidized so that in a pandemic, for example, people can still receive essential goods. But if not, then, hey, why not just privatize it? What do you think?
Well, I think there's a difference between privatization. I think there have been countries in the world that have privatized it, and they're different. They're geographically less distributed. I mean, I think the challenge here is you have 130 million addresses the Postal Service goes to 6 days a week. And so I think there's adjustments they can make. In the past, they've tried to do those things like shutting down post offices, reducing the number of delivery days per week, clustering mailboxes. So I think that there's certainly some ways they could reduce costs, but first-class mail has been declining for 20 years, and I don't see that changing. In fact, the coronavirus has clearly accelerated that process. So there's challenges. I think it's going to be a massive restructuring that has to take place, as well as potentially some government subsidies that are going to have to come into it.
Ken, are higher parcel prices inevitable? And if so, what does that mean for your business?
Yeah, I think that we support 40 carriers in the U.S., so we're not totally dependent on the Postal Service. We support almost 500 carriers worldwide. So when you talk about parcel prices, you got to talk about, UPS and FedEx. You got to talk about different sizes and weights. And so it's a more complex question than just like pricing. But parcel prices, I think that it's a very competitive market. I don't see that going up a lot. Certainly, if it went up a lot, it depends on the competitive situation. But we have a partnership with UPS. We have a partnership with USPS. So there could be some volume shifts. But ultimately, people need to ship parcels, and there's been a huge uptick.